went and got myself a new John Deere. Doesn't it look pretty? Brand new, right off the lot. No. This is a kind of a vlog type of video. I'm not going to do a lawnmower video. You know, business is slowing down. So this time of the year, Carolyn and I have decided that we're going to try to refurbish. I'm going to use these two words independent of each other: refurbish and restore. We've decided we wanted to refurbish lawnmowers. So basically, we buy a lawnmower and flip it. Maybe we can find one for $100, something like that, and flip it and make a small profit. Try to spend as little money on it as possible and try to get the maximum return on it without spending a lot of time and money on it. So here's a perfect example. We got this Craftsman and we bought it for $100, and we're gonna probably put another $40 into it, and we'll get a good little penny out of this. This is gonna be nice, Kohler engine on it. You know, we sprayed a little paint on it to kind of pretty it up a little bit. Nothing fancy. You know, we didn't replace the stickers and completely strip the paint and do it over. So just trying to sell it and have somebody a good riding mower when they buy it. So we bought this, and it looked like, I mean, it's obviously it's an older John Deere. It's probably an antique, and a lot of the squareness of it. In the modern day John Deeres are more rounded. This is, you know, still a square body, probably the 80s if I had to guess. I'm sure there's a serial number on here somewhere, well, and I'm not too sure about that. So found it on Facebook Marketplace, and I was suspicious of it, but he wanted $100 and or best offer. I would imagine it was a kid. I mean, when I met him, he was a kid, just needing some money. I mean, he's put a little bit of money into it already, and he's definitely selling it for less than what he's already put into it. You know, he bought it, so whatever money he paid to buy it, he's put a new tire on it, new starter, and you know, a starter's probably $40 at least, if not more, because this has the ignition coil on it attached to it, whereas most lawnmowers, newer lawnmowers, has an independent ignition coil. So, you know, 40, 60, 80 bucks for a starter. A tire is $20, and that was the rear tire, so it might even been more than that. So, you know, I gave him 80 bucks, and so he just needs money, I'm sure. But you can see it needs a paint job. And again, once you get into that, now, you know, you have to just take the whole thing apart, take the engine off, everything, all the parts, sandblast it. I don't have a sandblaster. You got to buy all the new decals and repaint it. Well, I mean, by the time you're into that, you're going to be starting to get into some serious money. I'm trying to figure out, what do I want to do with this? So I spent $80 for a Kohler engine. Now that's the key, a Kohler engine. Although I'm not a fan of Kohler, I found that out on that Craftsman. I don't like them. They're an electronic nightmare. They are a popular engine, more so than Briggs & Stratton. So you put Kohler on something, people are going to buy it. So $80 for a Kohler engine that runs. In the Facebook page, I saw it run, and then we went over there. He started it up for me. Now, once I got over there, I mean, obviously the paint job was an issue. Although while I was over there looking at it, I still thought, well, maybe I could patch this up and not restore it. Just you know, strip off some of this old paint that's flaking off and spray paint it green. You can buy that green John Deere paint and just do the best I can, kind of clean it up is what I was kind of thinking. But then he threw, what was funny is in the Facebook page, it sounded like he was being really honest. He says, the seat's missing, which it isn't missing. He actually has the seat, it's in the back seat of the truck. The cushion, you could probably reattach that, but that's the thing he said, the seat's missing, so. But I get over there and I said, well, can we see it run? Because I wanted to make sure it ran. He said, yeah, you got jumper cables that doesn't have a battery. But I saw a battery, it's right there. But that's a 6-year-old battery, he said. I am going to try to charge it, see if we can get anything out of it. That'd be nice. I wouldn't have to buy a battery. Or I have a battery, it's actually sitting right here. But if I don't have to use it, that'd be great. 6 years old, it's questionable. So he comes over here and he jumpers the solenoid. Now this is you see these on cars. The solenoid is attached to the starter. On lawnmowers today, the solenoid is underneath the steering column over here independently. And I'm staring at this. Of course, he starts it, he gets it to running, and then he shuts it off and he says, there's no brakes, which, yeah, I would say so. And he says, there's no reverse. Neutral is reverse. Oh, okay, well, there's two. And he started just listing off a bunch of stuff. And I got to thinking, this is going to be pretty costly. So I'm not sure that I want to do that. So I buy it because it's got the 80 idle engine. And I get in the truck after I get it strapped in, and I tell Carolyn it's got the engine. She says, we'll put it on that other lawnmower, which it's not John Deere. It's an old, I think, yard machine is what it is, power car, craft, whatever it is. This engine is blown. Now this is a, I believe, oh no, it's an 18 horsepower. I was wrong. So that Kohler is a 12 horsepower. This is 18. But I have seen 15s run a 42-inch blade. It can be done. I'm going to switch out the engine, I think. Now, in order to do that, I would have to make sure the shaft size is the same size, at least in length. You might be able to get away with diameter because you could use the shaft on this one. But in length, if it's too long or too short, your belt will not fit on it right. So you won't have a drive belt or a Nordex belt. So I'm looking at the wiring mess, and of course he's got a real wiring mess. It's terrible. So he's got this unplugged from this. He said he didn't do it. It was who he bought it from. There's obviously a positive 12-volt wire somewhere that should be attaching to this somehow. This is disconnected. I would imagine this probably plugs into the starter. But then I was sitting here before I made this video, and I'm trying to figure out, this doesn't look right to me. There's obviously a wire missing here. There's something wrong. And so I'm thinking about a regular solenoid underneath the steering column. How's that work? How does it work? And typically what you have is you have a battery wire that comes from the battery to the solenoid. Then you have a jumper wire that comes from the key. That would be this right here, little jumper. So when you turn the key, that jumper, it's a switch inside here that turns a switch. And so then that would go over to this one and start the starter. So that goes like that. But this one was wrong. I just knew there was something wrong. You don't have two red wires, but you got to have two red wires. You have to. I couldn't figure it out, Well, fortunately, he gave me the old starter. He says the only thing wrong with this, which I've already confirmed is true, the only thing wrong with this is the solenoid itself. So if you can find a solenoid, you can replace this, and then you'd have a new starter. But when you look at it, this wire, or this bolt, this nut right here, goes into the battery, which makes sense because that was how the old solenoid or the new solenoids work. So this bolt comes off, you take the solenoid off, you put a new solenoid on, you bolt this back on with that wire. That means the positive wire should go here. But when you come over here, he's got it on the wrong one. It should go here. So he's jumpering it, trying to get it to work. But that didn't have to do that way. And so I'm going to have to figure out this wiring anyways when I get it onto the other mower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it off the truck, and at a minimum, boy, this tire's in bad shape. Oh, speaking of which, he gave me two tires. This one is inflated. This one isn't. He says it needs a new valve stem. If it had a new valve stem, then it would work. I'm not entirely sure that's true, because he said it also had an inner tube in it, so you'd have to take the inner tube out. And I don't know why I just wouldn't inflate the inner tube. If there's an inner tube in it, I'm not sure there is. Maybe there is. Yeah, I bet there is. I'm going to stick a screwdriver down there, see if I can feel an inner tube. Yep, there's an inner tube in there. So I'll just find the valve stem to that inner tube and see what's wrong with it. He was an interesting fellow. I mean, he was young, and he seemed like he knew a little bit about lawnmowers, but not enough to actually fix it correctly. For example, take the inner tube out, get you a new valve stem. Well, why not just use the inner tube? If there's a hole, fix the inner tube. Saves you money. So anyway, I'm going to get this out now. It's going to be a rough ride getting it out. Normally I back it up to a little hill I have over here. I'm not going to this time. I'll just hook a strap to it and try to guide it down the best I can. I forgot to mention, he said he had ordered a starter, a carburetor for this. He says this one leaks by a little, and he wanted me to buy it from him, but it hadn't arrived yet. It was, still being ordered by eBay. And I thought, no, I don't want to buy it. If I got to replace the carburetor, I'll buy one off Amazon, new, aftermarket. But he was very adamant to make sure he gave me all the parts. These are the washers, I guess, of that tire that he gave me. Something else I forgot to mention while I was on the truck is I can probably, look at that, cigarette butts. That's great. I could probably, well, I know I can. I'll take that deck off. I can sell it. You see those on Facebook Marketplace all the time for about $200. And then John Deere rims. Oh, wow. Now, the tires, the back tires at least, are $20 a piece. So I'm not really sure what the rims go for, but they're John Deere. I mean, imagine you have to go and buy a rim from John Deere, $100. I can sell them for 50. Yeah, and they got the caps on them still, so they should be fairly easy to get off the axle. Usually when the caps are on, they don't rust on. So right now I'm going to take the battery out and see if I can save it. Well, may not be able to, but I'll put some distilled water in it if it needs to, and we'll see what happens. So take the negative off first so I don't shock myself. Well, there's no charge to it. I ain't gonna shock myself. Cigarette butts all over this thing. Crazy. That one's got water. So does that one. So I'll just go there down to my solar panel batteries, my house batteries. I'll hook the jumper cables up to it, put it on positive to my battery, positive to my, or negative to my battery. That way it'll charge up a little, because these modern day battery chargers won't charge this when it's completely dead like this. Okay, so I don't think I'm going to work anymore on this today, but I'm going to lift it up. That way when I come out in the morning, I can just start taking the shaft off. I can measure the shaft. I can move this one out of the way, bring the other one up, take the shaft off it, measure that shaft, see if they're the same size, and then bring this one back, if they are, and start removing this engine. I'll probably remove the engine off, instead of doing so much switching around, just remove the engine off that one as soon as I get the shaft off. To go ahead and take it off, because it's a busted motor. And then bring this one back, take the engine off this one. if they're different sizes, then we're going to have to rethink this whole thing. Might be restoring this. I mean, I don't think I want to. I think it's going to cost too much. But, you know, we live in a poor town. I don't think people are going to want to buy it. And paint's just flaking off everywhere. So if you'll click this up next box, take you to a video where I was working on something, so if I can inspire you to flip something so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.